Alright, Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews, we got to have some history. Man, it's easy, simple history. There's a lot of Israelites waking up, and they know that we Israelites, some of them still questioning and they really don't know. So, I'm going to make this video making the Israelite history real simple for those just waking up. The Israelite history is simple. It's real simple. And the confusing part about the Israelite history is that Israelites don't know that we abandoned our heritage to some scribes, to some Babylonian scribes, and they are responsible for Western civilization history. All this is considered Western civilization. The United States history, Canada, and all of Europe, and in good parts of Africa, because Africa educational system and how it's starting to develop, it's been in the foreigners' hand. They've been putting all kind of books and stuff in Africa. Man, the Africans are starting to learn about George Washington and the history that the United States, the educational curriculum that the United States put on the enslaved folks, they putting it on the Africans and stuff. All the ABCs, yeah, everything. But this is considered Western civilization, and it's a people that's responsible for Western civilization's history from its beginning, and they ain't really lost control. It's just more sophisticated, because they got institutions and so forth that do their will, and then they got organizations, secret organizations that's leaders that be over those institutions and so forth. But it's like a pyramid, that they worship and they go up. But I'm gonna make the Israelite history real simple, real simple, real simple. Real simple to where, man, I'm talking about it's so simple that, it's hard for a person not to understand it the way that I'm going to explain it, because, Israelite history is simple, and all it boiled down to is that we broke the covenant and ran off. Now a lot of Israelites ain't going to want to believe that, and they ain't gonna want to accept that, because they done wrote a lot of books being wrote in history about the Israelites, and then a lot of real Israelites and then got them books and read them, and that history done become part of them, and they don't want to forsake that false history about the Israelites. So they ain't just really want to accept that the Israelite history is just basically simple, and we ran off during the Babylonian Wars. The whole Israelite nation ran into Africa. Man, it's easy to prove. I'm talking about basically all the videos, basically I got show this. But, a lot of Israelites, man, because they done read a lot of books, and then they believe in them books, and they done seen glimpse of pigmented peoples throughout history claiming the Israelite heritage in different lands, mostly in southern Europe, Spain, and so forth. And then they don't understand that those Jews or people claiming the Israelite heritage were not Israelites, but actually Edomites. Edom, got pigmentation, as I shown in one video how Edom went to Egypt, and how Pharaoh gave Edom land. So Edom all in Egypt right now and control Egypt. But a lot of Israelites think, because they see people throughout the world claiming the Israelite heritage and got pigmentation, and they be stuck on that and stuff, and they just see a skin color, and that is dark skinned or brown or any kind of pigmentation, and then they say that's us, finally the world can see us, and it don't be us. It don't be us, because anybody claiming a Israelite heritage, anybody, any group of people claiming the Israelite heritage after the covenant was broken can be easily shown as not being the children of Israel, because the Israelites broke the covenant for Egyptian religion. That's easy to understand, man. I mean, that's easy to comprehend. The Israelite people broke covenant for Egyptian religion. We always had a long-standing relationship with Egypt. We never lost that. And then Egypt being the superpower of the world, living right next to us, me and this show was the will of the Creator. If we could have resisted the Egyptian influence on us, and the tribe of Judah held out the longest. We would have been lost and been went into bondage and destroyed and driven off the land if it wasn't for the kings in the tribe of Judah, just period, holding on to the Yah worship. And, everybody else succumbed to Egyptian worship long time ago, and that we never left it alone, as I showed that the tribe of Ephraim did trade with the Egyptians and the Assyrians. I'm going to talk about the Assyrians too, because a lot of Israelites, men, get stuck during the Assyrian time and don't know which way to go, and it confuses simple history, and it shouldn't be like that. A lot of Israelites don't know that the Syrian Empire was destroyed in it's called the destruction, the Battle of Nineveh. That's the Syrian Empire. That was like their headquarters, and they was destroyed. The Battle of Nineveh, they was destroyed in 612 BC. It maybe went down a little few more years, but you see that 612 BC, man, that's almost, it's close to 90, 80 some years difference from 722 BC, and then at the Assyrian Empire stayed around a long time. To 612 BCE, and then it was destroyed by Ashkenazi under the name Scythian. Ashkenazi destroyed the Assyrian Empire. And I got a video going into this. But a lot of Israelites think that the Assyrians in 722 BC came and took 10 tribes and then carried them all over the world. You know what I'm saying? All over the world. What they think that the Israelites then went through a waterfall, a magical waterfall, and then end up in some land called Azarias or something like that. And then this what Israelites fail to understand is that when we abandon our heritage, to some book writers. Now, if these folks, book writers, and write books, and that's what they do, is write books, and been writing Babylon, God's history. Man, been writing all the God's history, men of Mesopotamia in cuneiform and all other languages, and how it could be traced to this single source, people right here. And I explained how these folks had a covenant one time, and how Melchizedek was like the high priest over, and that they worship and believed in Almighty God as all the inhabitants on the earth did. Men at one time, and that the confusion come about with the worship of God's sons and so forth. And that's what we Israelites were forbidden to do, is worship God's sons or gods in human forms and so forth. The Creator created us in His image there. It didn't say that we was created exactly, totally, we was created in His image. A version, something like it. But how, the world now start worshiping God's sons and human beings and so forth, and look at them as gods and so forth, and how we Israelites were supposed to not do that and set the example for the world. Well, Western civilization history, the gods history for the whole Mesopotamian pantheon, all the gods, Norjel, Nabu, Enki, man, you name it, they're responsible for its history and what the God said, did, done, and the morality or whatever type of mental state that the God tried to portray or do, they're responsible for it. And then they are Amorites, and I explain in videos how these folks got in our heritage under Joshua, under the title Gabonites, but how the Gabonites are Amorites. And if Israelites would do some simple research, you will see that the Amorites are the founders and responsible for Babylon. Now that's something real serious right there. And then I explain how did these one group of people, the Sephardims, who are the Sephardic Jews, how did they got in our heritage, and I explain how Israelites get confused by the different little groups of people that they done made it with. They the real Semitic people, which means semi-mix, and they mix, and then how they mix with different groups that got pigmentation, and everybody know that the Ethiopians took over Yemen and controlled different parts of Saudi Arabia, so you're gonna have pigmented Hamites going over into Edom's territory. And then I show how that those pigmented Edomites went across North Africa when Herd Edomite temple was destroyed and settled in Spain and all other parts. And then they would get schools and start schools because they taking learning and skills that they got from Babylon long time ago. And then they settled in our land in 722 BC. The most serious ones came, the capitalistic ones that's responsible for this city or town called Sipper. Sipper is where the Sephardian name come from, and Sipper is where that they developed the understanding of the administration and governing capitalistic entities and so forth. That's like if they go to another country, that they know how to set up the whole capitalistic system, trading and bartering and banking and all so forth, and then set up other institutions. They go in and set the foundation up, and then the other peoples coming from poverty, gradually be emerged into that system with them at the top. You know what I'm saying? That at the highest point and so forth, is being originators of the system and having, men control. They the governing body and so forth. And that's how Western civilization history got into their hands. Well, those folks settled in our land, They was always in our land. Man, it's some cold history dealing with them because, you know, they Amorites and they was always there. And I guess, you know, this was they land, you know, from, you know, the Sinai all the way, you know, Iraq and most Syria, man, it's the heart of the heartland. And I explained in the video how that, you know, Ashkenazi trying to break Syria up and destroy Syria, the Sephardim Edomites homeland, and then wasn't successful, and then how that Russia being settled and governed by the Eastern nation system, since that's the majority of its people and so forth, and then how that they follow and support, you know what I'm saying, the Edomite Sephardists, and then how like the East and West wars has basically been through those groups that settled in our land and got control and been fighting by proxy, by proxy wars. I'm gonna make the history simple, but I just got to go through this little history and so forth, and then I'm explain, you know, making the Israelite history real simple for the Israelites waking up. All right, you know, them two groups been fighting. Them two groups been fighting over the Israelite heritage since we abandoned it, and then they been fighting over it. And then how did these folks right here held all the power in the BC days, all the power in the BC days, and then the ADs started to switch over, man, to these folks, and then they wrestled control of the Israelite heritage from these folks, and these folks have to go by what these folks say that the Israelite heritage is, and then that they two separate groups that function together. They the one coin that they got a head and a tail, but it's one coin, and it's the same to everybody else, but it got some distinctive differences, and then they been, you know, going at it over the Israelite heritage, and it basically boiled down to the somewhat of a race thing and stuff, you know, because the real Israelites had pigmentation, you know, us, and then that how that when them folks chased us out and took over and become the victory, you know what I'm saying, over the land, even though it been, you know, wrestled from them, you know, quite a few times and stuff. The Crusaders Wars, you know, with Christianity and Islam fighting over the Promised Land, it's basically the proxy wars between these two groups fighting to get control. Because if you look throughout history, and I can show this easily, how that these groups of peoples are accepted in Muslim controlled lands and countries. Guess why? Because they had the dealings with the Sephardists long time ago, you know, mixing and so forth, and that religion just come about, and that how that they was already familiar with each other. Edom, the Arabs and the Sephardists and so forth, and then how that they recognized them as being the children Israel, because that they was there before Ashkenazi pulled up during the Babylonian Wars. See, Ashkenazi come into the picture under the name Scythian during the Babylonian Wars, and then they was used to chase us out the Promised Land. They was used to chase us out the Promised Land because we wouldn't stop doing the Egyptian religion, and Almighty God said He was gonna send for somebody real serious to get us up off the land. When He kept saying in the book of Jeremiah, if you read it, be removed, be removed, thou shalt be removed, thou shalt be removed, and so forth. Well, it was these folks right here that come removed us. And that's Ashkenazi with the crossbows and axes and all kind of metal ornaments and so forth. And them folks, man, was vicious. If you read Scythian history, you're reading about Ashkenazi. You know, you can kind of like somewhat see they trait today in the world with the war and you know the military and the military complexes all around the world selling weapons, and you know they was creating different weapons back then, and that crossbow was the one that they got us up off the land. Yes, yes, when they came with the crossbow and them horses, and they the master of the horses, they could talk to a horse and he gonna do what they say. And then them folks fell up on us that we got up off the land. And then a lot of Israelites ain't gonna have this in their history. That's why Israelite history should be real simple. You know, you ain't got to read no 1,000 books to get the understanding of what happened to us, because it's basically clear in the Tanakh. You know, all you got to do is just a little research, just to verify little things, and then it should all add up. But Israelite just waking up, man, you shouldn't have to go through all them myths and all the lies and so forth about the Israelite history that's been created since we abandoned covenant. And like I say, that them folks right here, men, is responsible for Western civilization history, even though they inherited it and kind of put their little spin on it. But it basically come from those folks. And then them would be these folks right here that Israelites get confused by. And we abandon our heritage to them. You see an Israelite, see him and say, that's us. That's us. See him and say that's us. That's us. You know, Israelite to see him and say that's us. He from the tribes of Israel, and not knowing that that's a Edomite, Amorite that done got control of our heritage a long time ago, and you know got the Babylonian version of our heritage that they created in their schools, Plumblita, and all of those Babylonian schools and so forth. You know what I'm saying, that they had, and how they, you know, dissected our history and said what this mean and what that mean and so forth, and how he inherited that. And then how that Israelites will see him, men, and go crazy because he got pigmentation. And then they, you know, they don't know. And then they read the history that's behind them, and them folks do have a history. You know, the Sephardists have a history, and you know they've been in our heritage for a long time. And then when we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars to live, abandoning our heritage to them folks, that they started saying what was Israelite history naturally, you know. And then they always wanted to be men accepted, men as Israelites. They always wanted to be accepted as Israelites if you read throughout the Tanakh, you know. And then they wanted, you know, men to be accepted. But, you know, we shouldn't have never, you know, accepted them and made those folks carriers of wood and so forth in our congregation. You know, that's what Joshua and them did with the Gabonites, and that's these folks right here too. They all, man, he mixed with a whole lot of tribes, and that's that Semitic name. It cover all the ancient tribes: Moabites, Ammonites, Amorites, Hittites. You know what I'm saying? Some of everybody mixed up in them. And then how that, you know, the Israelites we don't know that they got our heritage, and then they start, it's like the rap game, how everybody rapping and so forth, and you really can't tell, its original origin and how everybody can lay a claim to a version of it. Well, that's what happened when we ran into Africa, and it fell into these folks' hands, and these folks are Amorites, and they got roots in Babylon and so forth, and then they, dissected our history. But Israelites will see these folks, man, and go crazy. Oh, that's us. That's us. Not knowing that those are the people that we abandon our heritage to, and that they mix with Hamites, because the Canaanites are Hamites, and that them folks gonna get pigmentation, and then the Israelites be confused by that. They be confused by that and so forth. They'll see them folks, and get lost and swapping down that that's us. But that's not us. And them folks ain't suffer no curses. They ain't been through no curses, because they ain't broke no covenant. They ain't broke no covenant. So anybody ain't broke the covenant, you ain't gonna really see the curses on them. And the only time that you see the other people with hardships and so forth is because they done abandoned they ancient ways, and then got on with what they call democracy, and have to yield some of their morality and ancient good standings in exchange for evil and wickedness that democracy protects and so forth. And then the people, lose power, and then they suffer. That's why they suffer. But other than that, the folks don't have no curses on them. And these folks right here traded everywhere. Look, everywhere. They traded everywhere. They did trade all in Africa and all in these lands. So you know that they gonna mate with them. So they gonna have different degrees of pigmentation, but they gonna be all knit-worded under what's called Judaism and so forth. And then you see little remnants of it in Africa, and the Igbo's are deeply involved in it, as well as the Limbas got a Edomite version of the Israelite heritage, as well as the Limbas and the Igbo's, and all the Ethiopian Jews and so forth. Some Israelites ain't never questioned, well, why these folks up off the land, up off the promised land, and they ain't up under no curses, and how did they get to live in all these different lands and then not be cursed and so forth, and have a heritage? Because when Almighty Yah say he gonna blot your heritage out, it shouldn't have been no Israelites lingering with the Israelite heritage. And the reason that our heritage was double blotted out is because we abandoned it. We said we didn't want to do the covenant no more, everybody, and that we all went into Africa, and then us being plucked up from Africa, and then being enslaved. You know what I'm saying? That ain't never happened to a folks where they abandon their roots and then go do somebody else stuff and then get enslaved for it. And now that's the difference between us and the other folks, is that we was enslaved for breaking covenant. So, you shouldn't see no Israelites doing the covenant. And I explained in plenty of videos, man, about the exiles. You know, the exiles from Babylon, and how Prophet Isaiah said that they would be destroyed. But man, let me go on and try to make this real simple. I know I done just went off on a little of this and a little of that, but I wanted to fill in a little something so you Israelites waking up, you had to want to stimulate a little interest. You know what I'm saying? But our history basically boiled down to us Israelites breaking the covenant for Egyptian religion during the Babylonian Wars. There's no other history besides that. You know, and that all the other history about the Israelites has been created by the Babylonian scribes. And I got a video called Synchronizing the Israelite History, and how they synchronized our history with the Babylonians folks' history and so forth, and made it into one. And then, man, I explained that. Well, us Israelites must know that we broke the covenant during the Babylonian Wars, and we chose African religions and customs over Almighty Yah worship. Plain and simple. Plain and simple as that. And during the Babylonian Wars, it is when it happened. It is when we ran off, because Almighty Yah sent those folks right there after us. And, you know, no joke back then. You know what I'm saying? That's like them. You know, we can say we tough and we'll fight and we'll stand up. Yeah, but when these folks come in with some tanks and airplanes and bombs and missiles and all kind of ways to destroy you, it's over with. It's the same now as it was back then. And they firepower to us at the time is the same as it is now. When they came in with all that different stuff to fight and kill you with, man, that we had never seen nothing like that. And we took off. Because, you know, kind of we ain't have no choice. Because they was coming in to settle the land, to get us off, to drive us off. You know, and we left. And that's what the book of Lamentations is about. Us leaving the promised land, going into Africa, doing the African Egyptian religion. And Prophet Jeremiah tell you that we was wet, nasty, and dirty. Man, we was all messed up being driven off the land. And these are the folks that did it. Those are the Scythians. That's Ashkenazi. They made up the Chaldean nation. They made up the Chaldean nation. Man, they made up the Chaldean nation. I think I got a video that I just recently did, and then I put a little history down there showing, you know, how Ashkenazi, you know, controlled Chaldea and took Chaldea over. You know, they wanted to get some learning and so forth, and Chaldea at the time was one of the Babylonians' head place, because Chaldea was controlled by Assyria. And you know, Assyria founded it, but the Babylonians took it from them, and then Ashkenazi, under the name Scythian, took it from Assyria and got control of it. Yeah, I wanted to pull the little video up showing that how Ashkenazi had control of Chaldea a long time ago. Maybe it'll come up. The computer is so slow. Alright. During the Babylonian Wars, we Israelites were driven off the land into Africa, like Almighty Yah said that he would drive us off the land, because we kept doing Egyptian religion. And that's basically what the Tanakh history is about, and that's what it sums up. You know, the Tanakh, it is the only book on the face of this earth that give in-depth detail, man, about a people and the way that they function and the way that they talk and move. And you know, if you want to find out about the Israelites and what kind of people that they is and how they react, all you got to do is read the Tanakh, and that's what our enemy's been doing and so forth. And that's why it's been easy to control us too, because they read our ancient history and so forth. But we don't read our ancient history, some of us, and that we'll read a whole bunch of other books, man, besides, you know, our ancient history, and then what's so fascinating, man, about the Tanakh is that the Creator had dealings with it. Is why it's able to record the people saying this and saying that and doing this, man, and doing that. Them folks ain't lying about that all seeing eye, and that Almighty Yah had the power and got the power, man, to do that. You know, that everything on this earth didn't move. You know what I'm saying? Almighty Yah, no. All right, Israelites, we was driven off the land during the Babylonian Wars, and then it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and that how a lot of Israelites, man, push that 10 lost tribe doctrine, and that's what be slowing Israelites up, and then making the history not simple and easy is when you believe in the 10 lost tribe doctrine. If you believe in the 10 lost tribe doctrine, then the history is not simple. Simple history is that the Israelites ran into Africa in the book of Jeremiah. That's the end of the 99%. And that's all the tribes. And then I want to show that how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. So if it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and I could show Israelites among that little 1% of the exiles that come back from the Babylonian captivity, that the Israelites never went into this Assyrian captivity, not no 10 tribes, and that I show that only 3 tribes were taken because they was protecting the Egyptian religion. They was protecting the Egyptian religion, and these are some serious fighters, so it would take some serious people to remove them, and that's what Almighty Yah let the Assyrians do when it removed the tribe the tribe of Gad, Reuben, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Those were the fighters that got basically us in the land. Basically got us a good toehold in the promised land when we come out of Egypt. Well, when the northern kingdom got on Egyptian religion after Solomon's death, that man, the northern kingdom's army was protecting the Egyptian religion, and we couldn't protect the Egyptian religion. Is why the 3 tribes were taken, and that'd be the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. And then I'm gonna show you our inheritance before and after the so-called captivity, the Assyrian captivity, and I'm gonna show some dates with King Hezekiah having all the tribes around and going throughout our established known inheritance. So therefore, if it never wasn't any 10 lost tribes, then what that mean? That mean all the folks claiming a heritage off the 10 lost tribes is false, and we should stand up and point this out to them, and they should see very easily that they are not Israelites. See, we got to get control of our heritage, but the Israelites waking up got to know some simple history. And then it's gonna take, some understanding and so forth, that it ain't, nothing just given to us, but this is basically simple history where you ain't got to go read 1,000 books, man, to try to get some correct information. Man, about the Israelites, all you got to do, man, is listening to the Israelite Brotherhood, and I'm showing you that the history is simple, and then it's effective too. Simple and effective. All right. Let's go to the. Let me see. That'll be First Chronicles. First Chronicles. Let's get to First Chronicles, and then I'm gonna show that the tribe of Reuben and Gad and Manasseh was snatched up because they was protecting, you know, the Egyptian worship. You know, we couldn't get driven off. We couldn't get driven off the land into captivity if the Northern Kingdom army would have stood around. And they were some serious fighters. So the Babylonians wouldn't have never been able to whoop them. The Babylonians wouldn't have never been able to whoop them. But because we did a trade with the Assyrians, and the Assyrians was fighting against Ashkenazi and robbing and stuff, and then that the Northern Kingdom was easily snatched up. All right, and then if you go to Second Chronicles, you got to be Second Chronicles, Second Chronicles 5:18. Then let me see, the sons of Reuben, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, valiant men, able to bear a buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 440,703 that went out to war. And then that's coming from exiting Egypt. And then you know what I'm talking about is 40,700 of them. And they made war with the Hagarites and you know what I'm saying, with everybody. But look, all right. And then when you get over to verse 26, and the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Talchanazar, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Holler and Harbor. And this is in 722 BC. 722 BC. Now the king of Assyria is supposed to snatch them up and took them, but the 10 lost tribe developed off that. And it never was any 10 lost tribes, is because if you understand this king called Hezekiah, let me see, King Hezekiah, this king right here, this king right here, that's gonna be number 13. Number 13. Look, you see that? 716 when he come on. 29 years, and he was dealing with the Assyrians. You know, he was dealing with the Assyrians. And then the Assyrians snatched his son, Manasseh, and took him to Babylon because, you know, the fighters in the Israelite army, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, was still fighting with the Assyrians. The Assyrians had kidnapped armies and put them into their army and make them fight. That's all they did. And went and robbed folks. Went and robbed everywhere. I mean, and they was mostly robbing them European and Eastern nations and so forth. And then I show in one video how the Assyrians got their power, man, from us, Israelites, associating with them. But the army was allowed to get kidnapped by Yah because it was on Egyptian religion. In Egyptian religion, man, we can't have it on the promised land because that's wasn't the covenant, wasn't about that. You know, it was about destroying Egyptian religion. All right, so look at this, and then it's the Syrian Empire right here. And it extending, look, it extending all the way into Africa. The Syrian Empire. That's when it started, and then when it expanded, look, in 671 it went and took Egypt over, and we was part of that, but really it didn't go take Egypt over. Really, what the Assyrians did is that they went and took the Hamites, the Hamites out of control, you know, and then it's this tribe called the Mishwish tribes, who we Israelites had an association with for a long time. Did he put them on control? Yeah, the Nubians. He took that Nubian, Sudan, Ethiopian stock out of power and chased them out. Chased them out and so forth. And then re-establish a connection with the Mishwish tribes. You know, Assyria always had a long-standing relationship with the West Africans and so forth. And what's considered West Africa is everything on the Nile, on the west side of the Nile, you know, from here on back, you know, and that's where the Seti kings were located, and they was the Mishwish kings, and those kings would be the founders and the builders of the Egyptian Empire and its main monuments and dynasties and so forth, and how we was connected to them through the prophet Joseph being given Asenath, the priest of On daughter, and then how that they had Manasseh and Ephraim, and then how that the tribe of Ephraim kept a long-standing relationship with the Egyptians. And I'm going to show that too. Let me show that. Let's show this. Let's show this. So then you'll know there really wasn't no 10 lost tribes. So that's basically the core and lies that the world been governing and functioning on. But when we Israelites started understanding this simple history and then started explaining it to them folks, then it's a wrap. It's a wrap all kind of ways. All right, and then let's see if we can find the book of Hosea. Let's see. All right, I got it. And I almost turned to the page, and I did. And then this would be in 753 BC. 753 BC. Let's look. I want to see the date. 753 BC. All right. 753 BC. So we know that if these tribes is kidnapped in 722 BC, man, they got a good almost 31 years or something like that meant to have known how to get home from Assyria because of this right here. And we know that Manasseh is Ephraim's brother, so that it wouldn't make no sense for them to get took to Assyria and then couldn't never make it back home, which I show during the what they call the Seti history of Egypt is when all them folks ran into Africa because they was being chased from the east by these folks, and these folks destroyed Nineveh in 612 BC, and then would come to us, and then man around about 609 BC or something like that, man, they was coming in, and the Egyptians killed King Josiah. And then them folks would show up. Them folks would show up. They would show up because we kept fooling with them Egyptians, doing their religion and believing in their God, son worship. Believing in any God, son worship. That's why our enemies put us on God, son worship on the plantation in the slavery days, because that's what destroyed the Israelites. It's the God, son worship. And the God, son worship come from Egypt in Mesopotamia. And if you get the Israelites, the vast majority on God's son worship, and our enemies got a good story about God's son worship. Guess why? Because they've been developing and keeping God's son worship for thousands of years in Mesopotamia, in Babylon. So it ain't nothing for them to cook up a good God's son belief system to put on the Israelites and the people in the world, and then have them snared and tripping and falling over that stuff, because they've been doing this for thousands of years. So you know, it ain't nothing to get an Israelite that's been enslaved. He all messed up. He in another land. He on the way come from. He speaking another language. Man, and then they put their God, son worship on you, and then give you benefits, man, for believing in that God, son worship. Well, that's what destroyed us. And that's keeping us destroyed with the Israelites believing in Jesus and Yawashi and so forth, holding him any kind of way holy, and putting him next to Yah as a God's son. Almighty Yah destroyed the earth for God's son affiliation back in the Genesis days and so forth, when the sons of God went into the daughters of man. Well, the whole earth got it for that mess. And then these same stock of folks got us worshiping God's sons right now today. All right, let me get back to the story. But you see the Syrian Empire, how the Syrian Empire went all the way into Africa, and then the Assyrians was destroyed in 612 BC. 612 BC, the Battle of Nineveh. But before then, us Israelites had trade with Assyria, and then this was in 753 BC, which showed that the folks would have been impossible to get to stay in bondage there when everybody know the way home from dealing with the Assyrians. And this was before the Assyrian so-called 10 lost tribe being kidnapped and stuff. That junk crazy. Look, believe in anything our enemies say about an Israelite heritage, gonna let you be fooled and stuff. Gonna keep you lost. Look, Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth this Hosea 12. Ephraim feedeth on wind and followed after the east wind. He daily increased his lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and all is carried into Egypt. Look, all is carried into Egypt from making the covenant with the Syrians, and all is carried into Egypt. That's the tribe of Ephraim. So we know that it's impossible for it to be a 10 lost tribe if, folks know their way back and forth from Egypt to Assyria. And then I showed that the Assyrians empire went all the way into Egypt and so forth. At one time at the climax, of the Assyrian Empire, man, before it was destroyed. But this king right here, 716 BC, King Hezekiah was after the Assyrian captivity, and then this is what he say. And I'm going to show that he was speaking to the Israelites in our inheritance easily. Alright, let's do that. Let me get that understood. That he was speaking to the Israelites in our inheritance and so forth. Let me get that understood. Alright, so then if you go to let's go to I think it's 1 Samuel 3:10, I think. 1 Samuel 3:10. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure. 1 Samuel 3:10. 1 Samuel 3:20. 1 Samuel 3:20. Again, we need to get the understanding, men, of our inheritance. So that when you see that King Hezekiah sent a letter throughout all inheritance, that all the folks were still there. Because it wouldn't make no sense to send a letter to a land that nobody was there and so forth. Alright, so this was during King David's time no, this is during Saul and Samuel time and so forth. And this was when Saul was gonna be coming on and so forth. And alright, this 1 Samuel. Alright, and you know what I'm saying, this is his story. Alright, but I'm gonna show that our inheritance. Alright, man, if you read 1 Samuel 3:20, and it reads, and all Israel from Dan even to Beersheba knew that Samuel was established to be prophet of the Elohim. So our inheritance was from Dan even to Beersheba. And from Dan to Beersheba, I'm going to show this real quick. From Dan to Beersheba. I done did this before in plenty of videos, but you know, I'm gonna make Israelite history simple. Well, you ain't got to go read all these books and be searching around. You'll just know what happened. But I got to display some of those myths during the process. All right, look, you see that right there? That's Beersheba. All right, and everybody knew that Samuel was a prophet from Beersheba all the way to Dan. And now that's our inheritance, and we're mostly kicking it on this side because the folks on this side got snatched up. Reuben, Gad, look, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh got their mouth tore out for protecting the Egyptian worship and so forth, being under Egyptian worship, and then being on the front line where our enemies was. You know what I'm saying? They got their mouth tore out. But on this side is where everybody stayed at, and then this where everybody was kicking it at. So it went from Beersheba all the way to Dan that Samuel was a prophet. Alright? And we're gonna make Israelite history easy. Alright? So then if we go to 2 Samuel's 3:10, and it's gonna be dealing with King David. King David being established as king. 2 Samuel's, I think what is 3:20. Let's look that up. Second Samuel's 3:20. No, 3:10. Alright. This Abner and so forth, dealing with David's kingdom being established. Alright, and then Abner was telling one of Saul's son or something that, you know, how he for David and sworn to even be for David. And he said this, so do Yah to Abner and more also except as the Elohim has sworn to David, even so I do to him, to translate the kingdom from the house of Saul and to set it up for the throne of David over Israel and over Judah from Dan even to Beersheba. Look, from Dan even to Beersheba. So we know from Dan to Beersheba is where everybody kicking it at. That's our inheritance now, because we just seen what Prophet Samuel was acknowledged from being a prophet from Beersheba to Dan. Well, King David is finna translate the kingdom from the house of Saul and to set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah from Dan even to Beersheba. So we know that that's where everybody kicking it at. Men on this side. Everybody kicking it on this side. Everybody kicking it on this side. See? Judah down there with Beersheba at. And then look. Makes sense, man. The Tanakh can be right on time, man. It makes sense, man. If you could do all this, man, you can easily show that the Tanakh, you know, real with some of the history. Real easy. Alright, so we know that Beersheba to Dan, men is our men inheritance. And now go to 2 Chronicles 30. Now this is dealing with King Hezekiah. That'll be number 13 on the list. King Hezekiah. And this was after the Assyrian captivity. When he come on in power, it was after the so-called Assyrian captivity. You know, we're going to deal with that 10 lost tribe mess. I hate that mess because everybody claim an Israelite heritage off it, and it's easy to get them up off of it by showing them, you know, the true history. Alright, 716 BC is when he come on. You know, during this time, like a few years when the Assyrians was coming down and he was having trouble with them, They were slick. They were slick trying to get into Egypt to establish control. But being that Hezekiah as well as King Josiah worship Yah, that them folks couldn't just, it was a problem for the Assyrians. It was a problem for them. And that story is shown where I think Almighty Yah come rescue King Hezekiah. Was it Ahaz? One of them where a whole bunch of Syrians got their mouth tore out. But the Syrians didn't have no power over Judah, the Yah worshippers. But all the other Israelites, they worship the fallen gods, the God's son worship. The Syrians and our enemies had control over them. That's why it's important just to do Yah worship. Only Yah worship, because our enemies won't have no control over us doing Yah worship. And that's why everything is centered around stopping us from doing Yah worship. Everything. That's what the whole order of the earth rotating and our enemies causing mischief in it is to stop the Israelites from doing Yah worship. All right, now look, we see the King Hezekiah. Look, King Hezekiah is number 16. I mean number 13, and we see 7:16 when he come on. All right, so then if you start King Hezekiah history. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem. Look, and Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah. Now the Tanakh could be lying if he didn't send a letter, to the folks, and that the folks were still in the land. Look, and Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim of Israel. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the kings of Assyria. Look, out of the hands of the kings. Look, you see S. So the kings, there's a whole bunch of kings of the Assyrians trying to snatch folks, but they escaped. Now, what part of that you folks don't understand? And Hezekiah is in 716 BC. As I showed that the Syrians went all the way down to 612 BC, and then how did they came in and took Egypt over in 671. You know what I'm saying? So, and that would be under Manasseh reign, and he wasn't doing right. That's King Hezekiah's son, and then that allowed the Egyptians, the Assyrians and the Egyptians to hook up, because now you got an Israelite king that ain't worshiping Yah, and then King Manasseh history is there. That's King Hezekiah's son, but he repented and started back Yah worship, and Almighty Yah brought him home from Babylon, because the Assyrians and the Egyptians with the tribe of Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh and them was fighting the Babylonians and gathered, you know what I'm saying, and got a little piece of it for a little while. But then Almighty Yah had already told the prophet Jeremiah that he was going to be calling the folks from the north. Because while we kicking it with the Assyrians, we ain't doing Yah worship. We ain't doing Yah worship. The Assyrians is not fighting for Almighty Yah. You know what I'm saying? And that how we the only ones supposed to be fighting for Yah. And then how all those other folks get us caught up in their mentality and schisms and it take us away. That's like now today. You got Israelites easily taken away from their purpose and so forth. And it's easily for the Amorite culture to, do that to you. They've been doing this for a long time. They know all the trappings and all the riches and all the little stuff that draw you in. All right, so we see that everybody was there at home, and then as you read down, nevertheless, the verse of Asher, Manasseh, Zebulun humbled themselves and come to Jerusalem. And then, as you read over, the multitude of the people from Ephraim, Manasseh, Ishgar, Zebulun, and then what even tops this off is that King Hezekiah had a son, a grandson, named a great-grandson to be King Josiah, and how Amon would have been his grandson and Manasseh his son. So King Hezekiah, great-grandson, who was a prophecy king, a Yah worshiper, had all the tribes at home too, and cleaned up the northern kingdom and so forth. And then King Josiah was around in 640 BC. Remember, the Egyptians the Assyrians got destroyed in 612 BC, and it wasn't too many years after this when they the Egyptians killed King Josiah because they was trying to get across the promised land to go help the Assyrians, who was destroyed in 612 BC. But they had, tried to come across the promised land, and King Josiah wasn't having it. And then this evil king right here killed him. That's Necho. And Necho was a Setai king. And, his dynasty, the Syrians set up. And then, but he would kill King Josiah. And then, but because, the Syrians would get in under Amon, Hezekiah's son, and even kidnapped him. And they would get on into Egypt and establish the Egyptians, the Mishwish tribe's authority. Well, this king here killed King Josiah and put us on Egyptian religion. And we would go into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. Then the Babylonian Wars is just them folks there, Ashkenazi under the name Scythian, came in to get us. They was already warned with the Egyptians and the Syrians were their enemies. So us being in with the Assyrian army, as I showed, was going to make the Chaldeans come and get us, because we in the Assyrian army, as I showed that they took the fighters. So, when the Babylonians, the Scythians, the Ashkenazi destroyed Assyria, then that they finna come get us, because we was with the Egyptians and the Assyrians when they was fighting them folks. So that they gonna come get us and drive us up off the land. And they settled in the land in what's called Scythopolis. I thought I might have had a fruit, something showing that. Scythopolis. If you ever look up Scythopolis, that's where they settled. And they settled in our land. and they was driven out of through towns, but they come back, and they been fighting over our land with them other folks for a long time, over our heritage, over the Israelite heritage. And if you look up the Babylonian Wars, or the defeat of Nineveh, you're going to see that the Scythians made up the element, and that they was the main group and wasn't. And then what they not telling you is that they was the most vicious leading group, and that how King Midas led the way. And what's the reason why the Assyrian Empire was destroyed? They genocide them, wiped them off the face of the earth, where it wasn't one Assyrian left in the empire. I mean, I watch the Assyrian documentaries all the time. I even got a few videos showing where professors saying that how through archaeological or research how the Assyrian Empire was annihilated. Now that's some cold mess. So if we see the Assyrian Empire get annihilated by these folks, and we witnessing this, and that you think we ain't gonna get up off the land when them folks show up, and then that's what happened. Because Almighty Yah said it, and then we made it easier for us to get chased off the land, like it was easy for the Assyrians to kidnap the northern army, is that we was doing Egyptian religion. So it's easy to get us, and chase us away, because we doing Egyptian religion. We ain't gonna have no power. And then that'll be let me show Hezekiah great grandson having all the folks there at home, and that'll be King Josiah. And then if you turn to 34, Second Chronicles 34, you'll see it says, and Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand or to the left hand. That means he was a Yah worshiper. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Yah of David his father. And in the 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem over the high places and groves, and the carved images and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Balaam in his presence, and the images that were on high above them. And he cut down in the groves, and strode it upon the graves of them that sacrificed unto them, and he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simon, and even unto Naphtali with their metuks round about. And when he had broken down the altars in the groves, and had beaten the graven images into sawdust, and cut down all their idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. So it wouldn't make no sense for King Josiah to go clean up the Israel of his idol worship if everybody gone and took off, and there's nobody there to do the idol worship. So everybody's still at home. So we can't never believe in that 10 lost tribes. And when you look at all these folks, men around the world, claim heritage off of 10 lost tribe doctrines. The men at 10 lost tribes, I'm talking about, you got some folks really believe this, but all they is that them Edomites went to them lands telling them stories and been believing it, and getting the folks to believe in it, and generation to generation of telling lies, it become truth to them. Like the folks believing that they Israelites, generation and generations of telling lies, saying that you are Israelite. Pretty soon the folks will accept you as an Israelite, especially if you had some dealings with the real Israelites. And then that's what the Sebharders got our heritage easily. Easily. All right, so then when we see that everybody home ain't no 10 lost tribes, so then what will happen next to us? Eventually, after King Josiah was killed by the Egyptians because they want to get us on their religion. They want to get us on their religion because they hemmed up and can't go nowhere if we worshiping Yah. They ain't got no power to come across the promised land. So they put us on a religion, and then this what would get us gone. And that's why I say it's simple history. Israelite history is simple because it all boils down to us worshiping Egyptian religion. It all boils down to us worshiping Egyptian religion and then getting driven off the land, believing in the God's sons. And Egypt got so many God sons and worship God's sons that we got our mouth tore out. But if you go to Jeremiah 43, this is right after King Josiah was killed, because you remember Prophet Jeremiah was around during King Josiah's time, as easily stated in the beginning of his message. It's the beginning of his message, man. If you read Jeremiah 1, the word of Jeremiah, the son of Hezekiah, of the priests that were in Anath in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Elohim came in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So, when he started to, clean it up, then Prophet Jeremiah was there. And he was there when them folks then killed King Josiah, and then the Egyptians put us on their religion. And then, he knew that the people would be coming from the north because he gave the oracle, the original oracle from Almighty Yah, stating this. And as you read down, then the Elohim said unto me, out of the north, and evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land. Look, from the north. And we know what's north of the Israelite people. All them folks. And them folks done set their gates in the gates of Jerusalem. Everybody claiming the Israelite heritage. Everybody claiming the Israelite heritage. Alright? So, after King Josiah was killed, then they will put us on Egyptian religion, and then we will get chased out the promised land into Africa, into the curses. No matter how long it took for the transatlantic slave trade to start, we couldn't escape. We couldn't escape. Once we got into Africa, Africa's a big old landmass, all surrounded by water, no escaping, and we was there to the transatlantic slave trade started. That's simple. For worshiping Egyptian religion, man, for saying this right here, this is what we did. And this called slavery. And that's all the Israelite history is about. It's about this right here. Us doing this. Going into Africa to do this. This is all the Israelite history is about. That's why it should be simple. Real simple. Real simple. Real simple. So all that other stuff folks be talking about, the Israelites this, the Israelites that. No. All we did was break covenant for Egyptian religion. That's simple. And we was enslaved for that. That's simple. That's what the whole Tanakh is about. Look. Then all the men, this Jeremiah 44, I'm just get down to the main part. Jeremiah 44:15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense, men unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt in Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying this, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing to go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of victuals and were well and saw no evil. Look, how about Almighty Yah said that long time ago when we exited Egypt, that we would do just that. And if you go to, man, I turn right to it. As soon as I open the book, I turn right to it. Ain't that something? Look, this Deuteronomy 31:16. And the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they shall say in that day, Are not these evils come upon us, because our Yah is not among us? Now he said it, and during the Babylonian Wars, we finally did it, and we was driven off the land. That's simple. Everybody, all the tribes, because there wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and that little 1% that got captured, that they got their mouth tore out from the people from the north, would be the Greeks. The Greeks come in 98 years after the book of Malachi. 98 years after the book of Malachi to put their lights out, because they kept seeing it. That little 1% kept seeing it and would never stop seeing it, and they got their lights put out, while the majority, the 99%, was in Africa, us doing the Egyptian religion, waiting on the transatlantic slave trade. It's that simple. Israelite history simple. We broke covenant for Egyptian religion in the book of Jeremiah, and we ran into Africa and was enslaved. And that little 1% that come back home from Babylon in 538 BC, freed by Cyrus, was killed off real fast, silently and quietly. I documented with videos, man up under the Exiles name, showing that they got their mouth tore out, and it was over with. And us in Africa are the only Israelites, and we are descended from the Israelites that broke the covenant, that ran into Africa. And those are the descendants from the transatlantic slave trade. Israelite history is real easy, it's simple. So all the reading and all the studying that you do should equal up to this, sum up to this history that I'm showing. If it don't sum up to this history, then your history is off. And as I explained, the Babylonian scribes, we abandoned our heritage to Ashkenazi and Sephardi groups, got a bunch of Israelite history since they've been in the Israelite history since the Babylonian days. And these folks, men before then, they are Amorites, and they got in our heritage under the Gabonite name, and they was there a few hundred years before Ashkenazi pull up. And those two groups been fighting over our Israelite heritage. It is that simple. Israelite history is simple. All right, Israelites, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I'm trying to think if it's something else that I should get in, but man, I just want to make the Israelite history real simple for the Israelites just waking up. And they shouldn't have to go searching everywhere and trying to get an understanding, when the Israelite history is easy to understand. Real easy to understand. All you got to do, man, is read the Tanakh. It ain't written in its order, and I got that documented too on the order that the books, man, should come in and so forth. All right, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Much love to the Israelite Brotherhood family. I pray everybody is doing well, and it shouldn't be too long, man, before we start connecting on something serious. I'm working on it, and it's going to come to pass. Much love to everybody. Shalom, Hebrews. You know, we're going to make the Israelite history simple for those just coming into heritage, and how that they ain't got to try to get all these understandings about our heritage. And all they need to understand is that we broke the covenant for Egyptian religion and got enslaved. And now we're trying to come back and reestablish who we are. Shalom.